and peace, you guys. Welcome to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and welcome to the show. Today, I'm super excited because we're going to be diving into a very fascinating and controversial topic. It's a topic I've been wanting to address for quite some time. I want to talk about political manipulation that both the right and the left are complicit in. This conversation was actually sparked by a 2016 article found in the New Yorker that my guest actually sent to me. And the name of the article is called Drawing the Line. And I thought the article was interesting because it exposes this bipartisan game of chess played in the name of political power. Now, the article doesn't position it that way. You kind of have to come to the article with a historical understanding of what happened as it relates to redistricting in order for this to make sense. But the article reveals how Republicans and Democrats, how they've worked together to maintain control over these ethnically homogenous districts, right? That's the idea of one particular district being overwhelmingly black, and then a voting district over here being overwhelmingly white. And the reason why they do this to ensure that Democrats, yes, keep their strongholds while managing to cry racism and victimhood, and then say that the Republicans don't really care about the black community, or they use it to perpetually blame Republicans for their absence in the black community. Now, the sad part about it is Republicans overwhelmingly don't complain about this too much. This is a decades old problem that's been happening, and I am calling it a classic case of playing both sides of the fence. Why? Both parties get what they want. The black Democrats and the Democratic legislators continue to maintain control, which is what they want. And the Republicans don't run anybody in their districts. And then the Republicans get to maintain power and control in their district. And it's a win-win for both sides. But why should this matter to you? Well, this issue, for me, it is more than just political boundaries and lines drawn on a map. This is about how those in power manipulate voters, and they do it to maintain control and to shape the very fabric of our democracy, all while crying victimhood and then pointing the finger at others when the entire system is actually working just the way they like it. So, for example, why is it that no one from the right has really run anyone against James Clyburn of South Carolina or Hank Johnson out of Georgia? Actually, let me correct that. There have been individuals who have run against Clyburn and Johnson, but what you notice is that those candidates received no support or backing from the Republican Party. And I am here to tell you that such negligence is done on purpose. But the thing is, the candidates, those conservative candidates that in good faith wanted to run against those Democrats, they didn't know the reason why the GOP didn't want to put no money behind their candidacy. So we're going to talk about that today. And yes, it is going to piss off Republicans, but y'all will be okay. I am here to deal with the truth, not to display some underlying loyalty and allegiance to a party. So to help me flesh out this issue, joining me today is someone uniquely positioned to help unpack this. My guest today is Everett Ellison. He is a friend of the show. Vince is an author, speaker, political commentator, filmmaker, and he's known for his ability to challenge the status quo and to push us to see uncomfortable truth. So I'm so pleased to work with him, and I thought he'd be the perfect person to bring on the show today to discuss this. But before I bring him on, let me go ahead and just set the stage by breaking down the key points of this article in the New Yorker so that when he comes on, he can just get straight into the discussion. This article called Drawing the Line takes us into the backroom deals that shape today's political landscape. I know that may seem like a boring task, but redrawing these district lines, it's actually quite complex, but there's a method to the madness. You have both parties who claim to represent the people, yet behind closed doors, They've often colluded to protect their own interests. No. What are the claims that I want to talk about today? The Democrats, they have long argued that redistricting and redrawing these maps, they have argued that the efforts by Republicans are inherently racist and designed to disenfranchise minority voters. You'll hear it all the time. Yet, as this article points out, these same Democrats have historically pushed for ethnically homogenous districts to ensure their own control. Do you guys remember when I told you that Democrats are masters looking for slaves and Black Democrat voters are slaves looking for masters? Do you remember when I said that? Well, the reason why I said that is because it is true. The Black politicians, they love to have a stronghold on the Black community because they view them as their electoral serfs. They own that vote. They hold it very tightly, and anything or anyone, i.e. Donald Trump, that comes along to threaten that stronghold, they got to take them out. They don't have to improve the living conditions of the people they represent, nor do they have to provide better political representation. Why? Because they know all they got to do is say that the other side is racist, and that ensures them access to the Black vote in perpetuity. But on the other hand, Republicans play along with this. They're like so used to the name calling. They're like, you know what? It doesn't even matter. They're used to this because consolidating minority voters into fewer districts often means more Republican control where it matters for them. So now you got this perverse cycle of mutual back scratching, all while telling the public a different story. Now, what's particularly striking about this and infuriating is how this game is masked with this veneer of moral superiority. Like one party cries victim, oh my God, the white supremacists, they're so racist, and the Republicans don't care about Black people. And then the Republicans are like, we're so tired of the Democrats calling us racist. And, we try to reach out to the Blacks. We try, but they won't vote for us. So we're tired of trying. And I'm like, oh, y'all sound so cute. But y'all, this is the kind of political theater that leaves voters confused. It leaves them confused, divided, and ultimately powerless while the politicians maintain power in perpetuity. So how do we navigate a system that seems to be built on keeping us in the dark and keeping us perpetually subjugated? And then more importantly, how do we hold leaders accountable while staying true to our own principles? So to answer some of these questions and more, let's go ahead and welcome Vince Everett Ellison to the show. How you doing, Vince?
April, that was a long introduction.
That wasn't the intro. That was my
What
monologue,
was that?
Vince.
I was about to go to sleep.
Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me? You definitely
I thought you came on to interview me. You told the whole story. We just in the whole interview.
No. I wanted to give my audience some insight into this article and why I thought it was so important. And then you are my contributor for the day. You're contributing.
I wrote the book on it. You didn't need no article. I wrote the book.
Well, that's true too. But you sent me the article, Vince. So listen. First, let me thank you for joining me today. Okay, this discussion. I am so interested in this discussion because Vince, your book, right? Your book, you got 25 Lies, The Iron Triangle, Crime Inc. I'm putting those three in a particular category. Those books, particularly 25 Lies, will say it dives into this intersection of faith and politics and power. So one of the first questions I want to ask you, when you sent me that article, does it surprise you that the Republicans and the Democrats, that they would collaborate to maintain power and the status quo, even at the expense of false pretense and truth?
Well, before I answer that question, I'd like to first congratulate you on your show and how well it's doing.
Thank you.
And also, I heard about the rally that you're having down there in Atlanta, down at the Georgia Dome.
Well, it's at Liberty Plaza, the Georgia Right to Life.
No, I'm
It's
not
the
talking
March
about
for
that one.
Life.
Yeah,
Oh, not
I ain't
that
talking
one?
about that. No, I'm not talking about that one. I heard that
one?
you're doing a Stop the Violence rally with Gunner and Young Thug and Meg Thee Stallion and Offset and a bunch of rappers in Atlanta's greatest down there, and y'all trying to stop the violence. I mean, y'all have one of them Stop the Violence rallies every week, right?
Listen, this is my first time hearing about this rally. And now I wouldn't be caught dead in the same room with no Meg Thee Stallion and no what's the rapper name you say? I don't know these people.
Gunner and Young Thug and Offset.
Oh, yeah, that
You got
was
to know who
me.
your neighbors are in Atlanta now, so you don't get surprised by them.
That was not me. And see, now you probably don't even remember what the question was. Do I need to restate the question?
I apologize. I got it wrong. I thought you was heading that up. It was probably somebody else. I apologize.
It wasn't
Might have
me.
been Fannie Willis or somebody down in Atlanta. I apologize.
Maybe. Do you need me to represent the question again?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay, so
Y'all all look the same down there. I apologize.
listen, we were you sent me that article from the New Yorker, and I want to hear from you. Does it surprise you, or at least tell me from what you've learned about this agreement that the Republicans and the Democrats have? Does it surprise you that they would collaborate like this? And first of all, I guess maybe I want to ask, how do you know that these two have collaborated to purposely redistribute the constituency to where it's segregated on purpose? What proof do you have of that?
I've been in politics for a long time, and I ran against Jim Clyburn when I was a Republican. I'm not a Republican now. In 2000, that's 25 years ago, quarter of a century ago, in South Carolina. So I was involved in South Carolina politics 10 years before that. Right. And so I was around when all of this started happening. And there's the operative in South Carolina by the name of Lee Atwater. I got a chance to meet Lee Atwater, but Lee became the campaign manager for George H.W. Bush in 1988. He did such a good job that George H.W. Bush gave him head of the RNC, the Republican National Committee, when he became president. Told Lee, your job is to make sure that the Republicans take over the Congress, because the Democrats had it for 42 years. And Lee said, well, good God, how are we going to do this? In every year ending in zero, Constitution says that the state legislatures have to convene to redraw congressional districts. Well, if the state has a state legislature that is mostly Democrats, of course they're going to draw the congressional districts to make sure they get more Democrats in their states than Republicans, and vice versa. So down south, and we can't believe this now, but down south in 1988, almost all of the state legislatures were controlled by Democrats, white Democrats. And they had been drawing these districts for 4 decades to make sure that Democrats got most of the congressional seats. So Lee Atwater says, well, in 1990 is going to be the same thing. How am I going to change this? Well, the white Democrats and the black Democrats were of the same party. And the black Democrats usually did what white Democrats told them. But Lee Atwater knew that that these Negroes weren't no good. They ain't never been any good. They've been House Negroes before, they're House Negroes now, right?
Right.
Like I said before, they're part of perverts, liars, psychopaths, anti-Christian bigots. They got their power by siding with their slave masters, selling out their people. They care about one thing and one thing only. And your viewers need to understand this. These suckers care about one thing: maintaining their seat and their power. That's it. Everybody else in that state can lose their seat as long as they keep theirs. The president can lose, all the senators can lose. They don't care. If I keep my House seat, my Senate seat, my congressional seat, that's all I care about. Lee Atwater knew that. I mean, these no good jokers, they never had anything. And they came off plantations, they was poor all their life, and they finally setting up in the big house. Oh, they'll die before they lose that. Jim Clyburn been up there, he can barely walk, he won't give it up. And they get these seats, and you gotta kill them to get them out of there, or they gotta get found in some corruption like they usually do. So Lee went up to him, he used this against him. Mm-hmm. He said, look, I got a congressional map that I've drawn up. Yeah, this congressional map is going to give Republicans the power in your state. But listen, we're going to draw y'all majority black districts. These districts will be your districts in perpetuity. We're going to double your numbers in the House, and we're going to give you something you ain't had since Reconstruction. We're going to give you a black congressman in your state. We're going to draw a everybody else in that state can lose their seat. As long as they keep theirs, the president can lose, all the senators can lose. They don't care. If I keep my House seat, my Senate seat, my congressional seat, that's all I care about. Lee Atwater knew that. I mean, these no good jokers ain't never had anything. And they came off plantations, they was poor all their life, and they finally setting up in the big house. Oh, they'll die before they lose that. Jim Clyburn been up there, he can barely walk, he won't give it up. And they get these seats, and you gotta kill them to get them out of there, or they gotta get found in some corruption like they usually do. So Lee went up to him and he used this against him. Mm-hmm. He said, look, I got a congressional map that I've drawn up. Yeah, this congressional map is going to give Republicans the power in your state. But listen, we're going to draw y'all majority black districts. These districts will be your districts in perpetuity. We're going to double your numbers in the House, and we're going to give you something you ain't had since Reconstruction. We're going to give you a black congressman in your state. We're going to draw a congressional black district for a black congressman with about 85% black people voting in it, and he's going to win it. And so, of course, the black Democrats said, what we get, boss, what we get. And he said, we guarantee you that we will not politic or fund anyone, black or white, ever in that district in perpetuity if you vote for this plan. And that's what they did. They shook hands with the Republicans, with the black Democrat numbers and the white Republican numbers. They passed those districts. And in 1994, Newt Gingrich took over the House. And since that time, that was 30 years ago, since that time, the Democrats have only owned the House for 8 years. And the Republicans have owned it for 22. And the plan works, and they've been doing it ever since. And if you don't believe me, check and see how much money whoever ran against Hank Johnson got from the Republicans when he ran this past election. It was just over with. What was his name? What was his name?
Actually, Josie Cruz before that ran against Hank Johnson, and she couldn't even get a phone call. They refused to run any conservative against Hank Johnson.
And believe me when I tell you, these black Democrats want to keep these districts segregated. Do you think they want to have a bunch of middle-class white people drawn into those districts?
No.
Shoot, no, man.
What that'll do.
But then they'll holler about racism and segregation. But when it comes down to segregating those districts, if you want a fight, you start drawing white folks into those majority black congressional districts. They will lose their mind. So now they want to keep these districts as black as they possibly can. They want them segregated. But they act like we marching to end segregation. What about your congressional district? What about your House district? What about your Senate district? No, they don't want those segregated. No, we ain't talking about them. It protects them, protects their job. They're hypocrites, they're liars, they sellouts, they stick in my nostrils, they make me sick.
So let me ask you a question. We've named two names in particular, Hank Johnson here in Georgia. I used to actually live in his district. And then we mentioned James Clyburn of South Carolina, who you ran against. You as a young, naive, a young man who had political aspirations, it's obvious that you were unaware of this agreement, right? And you ran against Clyburn with the best of intentions. You were black, you were conservative, you ran as a Republican. I'm pretty sure you had a political platform that would rival, the best of the best, knowing what I know about you and your love of the Constitution and our founding fathers. When did you realize that there was something else afoot as to why the GOP did not lend their support behind you? Did you, in the moment, did you take it personal? Or at what point did you realize that, this was done on purpose?
You always smell a rat. But they use the logic that these are unwinnable districts. But you understand that statewide there are margins. And that if you run a strong race in a majority black district, if you can get 20 or 30% of the people in that district to vote as Trump did in Michigan, you get more black people in Detroit, about 10,000 more. The Republican didn't win that district, but he got 10,000 more votes, and that was enough for Trump to win Michigan statewide.
So is this one of the reasons why Trump is such a threat? Because he didn't get the memo? Because he actively campaigned.
Trump wasn't part of the deal. And Trump went into Milwaukee, he went into Philadelphia, he went into Detroit, he went into Charlotte, he went into Atlanta. And he won the states because the black people, and you saw how it happened when Trump came to Atlanta, how black people lined up to see him.
Right.
He pulled enough of the black vote to turn the whole state red for him.
Right.
And this scares these black Democrats to death. Many times he don't pull enough away to turn the district from blue to red. But he can pull enough away to turn the district from 25-75 to maybe 60-40. And that's a little bit too close for them because 60-40 can turn into 50-50. And now we got a problem. But the problem I have with this is that I'm a conservative. I'm not a Republican. Conservatism is the cure to what ails the black community because black people are conservative by nature. They have strong religious values. They believe in family. They're not into LGBTQ. They don't want women playing in girls' sports. And right now, for your viewers to understand, the House just voted on a bill to keep men, biological men, out of girls' sports. And all of the Democrats, except two, voted against that.
Right.
So Democrats voted to have men play against your daughters in sports and then go in the locker rooms and take showers with them. And you black people voted for these no good summer. I'm sorry.
It's funny that you bring that up. I was literally just watching Jasmine Crockett going off in her usual ghetto orangutan energy against Nancy Mace because of Nancy's support for this bill that actually protects biological women. And I found it funny. I said, well, listen, Jasmine Crockett is a black congresswoman representing overwhelmingly black constituents. Why is this woman caping so hard for this aspect of the rainbow tribe? It seems to me that the progressive left have overwhelmingly, they lend their support against policies that are diametrically opposed to what's going to help the black community flourish, all the while always crying about how pro-black they are, how racist the other side is. I wonder if black Americans, particularly Christians, are seeing how this plays out. This woman vigorously defended the right of these non-biological females to play in women's sports. And I mean, she's championing them as if they are just the weak and the marginalized and the downtrodden. And I'm like, I thought you all were for women's rights. You can't
this is why it's so important that Republicans campaign in the black community, because how many of your viewers know this? Why don't they know it? Because there are no Republicans campaigning in the black community. So if you had Republicans with money campaigning in the black community, they'd be telling your constituents about this, but they don't know it. And the Democrats ain't gonna talk about this. Believe me, Hank Johnson ain't gonna come in and say, I voted to allow biological men to participate in women's sports. He's not gonna say anything about it. And there's not going to be any Republican with any money that's going to let the black people in Atlanta know that Hank did this. So Hank's going to slide on it. And this is what I'm talking about. The very thing, school choice, for instance. When you talk to most black folks about school choice, they don't know that Democrats are against it because the teachers unions pay them to be against it.
Right.
When you talk about these illegals coming over the border, they don't know that Democrats are the ones that are allowing this. And that every time you try to pass a law to stop it, the Democrats are the ones that block it.
Right.
We start talking about taking guns off the street. They know the Democrats are the one that's pressing all of this mess and having drag queens come into the schools, shaking their behinds in your children's faces and passing laws like in Tennessee. The Biden administration took Tennessee to the Supreme Court. Why? Because Tennessee said you can't give sex change operations to children under the age of 18. And Joe Biden said, well, I'll be that gun, but that's so. We don't want any limits on sex change operations or hormone therapy to children. And took them to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court heard the case about a month ago, and now they're saying they're deliberating it. It was Joe Biden and the Democrats that say, we want to be able to castrate children, cut off the breasts of little girls. Do they know the Democratic Party is the party behind abortion up to the 9th month and even perinatal abortion, which is abortion after the child is born? And then when Trump said it, they said, oh, that's a lie. We're not for abortion after birth. Have you ever heard the Borderline bill?
Yes.
The Borderline bill passed last year by the House said if a child survives an abortion, the doctor has to render aid, because before this, they let the child die on the table.
Right.
Now the doctor, and guess what? Chuck Schumer in the Senate wouldn't hear it. And Joe Biden said if it got to his desk, he would have vetoed it. That means the Democrats and every Democrat in the House voted against it. That means Democrats support abortion after the child is born. And that means to all your viewers who support this party, you're complicit in murder.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, because it sounds like what you're saying is that there are some long, deeply held presuppositions within the Black community of being loyal to this one particular party. Yet the outworking of their policies and what they are seen advocating for on the congressional floor are the opposite of what their constituents actually want.
Isn't that obvious?
Yes. No. It's very obvious. So what is the solution to this? Because we could easily say, well, to combat this, the GOP should go on a mission to take their message and bombard these overwhelmingly Democratic Black stronghold districts. But here's one little problem. This whole thing that we're talking about, it has a name. We can't really say it out loud. Operation Rat, you know what? Mm-hmm. What is it going to take for the agreement that both parties have made regarding this redistricting agreement? What is it going to take for the GOP to say, bump that?
Well, what you're doing right now, sunlight is the best disinfectant. You let the people know. You tell them what's going on, and the people are going to start asking questions. See, April, what has happened over the past 2 or 3 years has been amazing. It's almost like when the printing press was made. When everything changed, because now you can mass produce information and send it out without anybody's permission. When the internet came out and everybody could talk, it's loosening up again. And people like me and you are able to go out and spread the news. Your show is growing by astronomical numbers. You have people like Tucker Carlson out there that's doing it. I'm out there doing it. Many other conservative bloggers are giving people information, and we're going over the head of these powerful people now. And when Elon Musk bought Twitter, it drove them all crazy. Why? Because Musk said, I'm opening up for everybody to be able to talk now. Y'all not gonna be able to hide the crap you're doing anymore. Now Facebook said, I'm going to open it up. So now, see, it's opening up because they see they can't stop the truth. You know, they tried to stop the truth, and me and you just said, no, we're going to keep telling it. And all the stuff they did last year, all the stuff they did to try to stop the truth. I mean, they put more charges on Trump than they put on R. Kelly. I mean, they just, everything they could to stop it. Our Facebook tried to stop it. Oh, they tried to stop it at Twitter. They tried to stop it here. They taken down sites. They took down Parler. They just tried to stop it, but they couldn't stop it.
Right.
So now, you know, people like me writing books, you're writing your book. We're putting the information out and people are listening. They can't stop the truth. So what do? We go, and just like I said, whether the GOP shows up or not, I'm not going to vote to kill a child.
Right.
Whether the Republican Party shows up or not, I'm not going to vote to trap my child in a failing atheist school that says that God is not welcome here, but drag queens are. That you can put porn in the library, but you got to take God out. I'm not voting for that.
Right.
Whether the GOP shows up or not, I'm not going to vote to allow illegals to come over that border and allow sex trafficking of children and fentanyl that kills 100,000 Americans a year. I'm not going to vote for them to take away my gun and to have perinatal abortion. I'm not going to allow it. So what we're doing is that even though the GOP isn't going down there and they're not telling the story, we're telling it. And because we told it, Donald Trump got enough of the black vote to kick them all out of Washington. The presidency, the House, the Senate, all went. Kicked them all out. And it wasn't because of what Trump did, it's because of what we did. What Tucker did, what Rogan did, what a lot of other people out there did. They woke up one day and they said, y'all, we've lost the narrative. Who's winning? The podcasters. The guys out there that are just, and Trump started showing up on these podcasts. And it was over. So me and you now are giving the message. We're doing the advertising. We're telling the people in our community what's going on. And they're panicking. They don't have control over the narrative. You don't have to go to the GOP and ask them for money. The GOP don't control what we do. Haley's movie Queen, and she knew that all the men were gone to fight the war. The slaves were still there. The men slaves were still there working. And this old lady, and it's nothing but old women and children on the plantation. All the men were there, and she called them around a bonfire.
Now, hold on, pause real quick. You just said all the men are gone, and there's nothing left but women and children. Yet slaves were not running away and fleeing to freedom. I just wanted to highlight that because, as you know, I've been covering, you've been covering slavery is a choice lately, and that's really difficult for a lot of us to engage with such a concept. However, it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable, but how else do you explain male, female, and children slaves on a plantation when there's really no oversight to keep the slaves in check because everybody's fighting a war? But anyway, that's gonna sidetrack us. I just wanted to bring.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. You saw it on Django Unchained. I
think it's interesting that you bring that up. Shifting gears a little bit, I will pat myself on the back in terms of the work that I did during the 2024 election cycle. It was a lot of work, but I was thoroughly committed to getting out the conservative message and helping people that look like me or who don't, exactly who the left is and what they were trying to do. But since you ran, or having run against Clyburn in the early 2000s, you have firsthand insight into the political maneuvers, but not just that, the state and condition of his district. I pulled some information really quick that I want us to engage with briefly, but based on the population of the area that he serves, it's about 755,000 people, and the racial composition of this area is pretty close to 50%. It's at about 48.8%. But there's some economic indicators that really concerned me in terms of the poverty rate. Poverty rate is relatively high. It sits at about 25.9%, and it's the highest among South Carolina's congressional districts. Also, there is concern of the educational attainment. 80.9% have or hold high school diplomas, which is below both the state and the national average. Bachelor's degrees is also very low. They're at about 19%, which is below the state average of 24%, and then the national average of 28%. My question is, in light of the information that has come out about the condition of his district, and in light of how long this man has been in Congress, why is it that no one is putting a magnifying glass on this man in his district to say, what in the heck have you accomplished? You've been in Congress since Jesus was an infant, and we are doing worse than we were when you took the seat. How do you engage with that? What do you believe it's going to take for people to wake up? Or why do you believe they continue to vote him in power? What is it?
This isn't anything new. The Democratic Party has been in control of the black community ever since it's been a party.
That's
true. They've had one stated goal to keep black people uneducated, afraid, poor, and under their control. It works. It has worked in every civilization that has ever tried it. Keep the people uneducated, poor, afraid, and under control. The czars used it. The kings used it. All of them always used it. It's nothing new under the sun.
The plantation owner used it. You were telling me a story yesterday about a mistress on a plantation that during the Civil War, she's gathering all the slaves around a fire and gave them this story about what the war was really about. Do you mind just recounting that story really quickly? I thought it was so interesting how the manipulation was happening back then on the plantation and still happening now.
Yeah, they knew they were losing the war in the South. And I took this off of Alex Haley's movie Queen, and she knew that all the men were gone to fight the war. The slaves were still there. The men slaves were still there working. And this old lady, and it's nothing but old women and children on the plantation. All the men were there, and she called them around a bonfire.
Now, hold on, pause real quick. You just said all the men are gone, and there's nothing left but women and children. Yet, slaves were not running away and fleeing to freedom. I just wanted to highlight that because, as you know, I've been covering, you've been covering slavery is a choice lately, and that's really difficult for a lot of us to engage with such a concept. However, it's hard. I know it's uncomfortable, but how else do you explain male, female, and children slaves on a plantation when there's really no oversight to keep the slaves in check because everybody's fighting a war? But anyway, that's gonna sidetrack us. I just wanted to bring.
Well, that's the thing. You saw it on Django Unchained. What did Monsieur Kennedy said? We asked the question: why don't they kill us? I mean, it's 2 white men on this plantation. There's 1,000 slaves, and we sleep soundly at night. Why don't they kill us? And he thought it was a defect in our brain. He showed the skull of the old slave and said, "There's a little thing back here in the back that says that they have to obey." They were even confused about it, but they were secure in the fact that they're not going to do anything. All the men left, and they were not afraid that the slaves were going to revolt or leave. They had no doubt they were going to stay, and they stayed, and they picked the cotton. And Lincoln had to issue the Emancipation Proclamation because the slaves are being used as part of the Confederacy. They dug the ramparts, they dug the defenses. Hell, they was helping themselves remain enslaved like we do now. We're not oppressors, we're participants. We've always been participants. And they want to play this game that you know, they kept us shackled up and kept us chained down and was whooping us. No, man, them jokers was on the plantation goals, and when not only they could have killed the master anytime they wanted to. They loved it. Abraham Lincoln said in his Cooper Union address, he said that many of you Southerners come up here to the North and you tell us all the time about how you are loved by your slaves. He said, and we have every reason to believe it. He said, we cannot start a slave rebellion down South before one of them go and tell one of their favorite masters.
Wait a minute.
Couldn't start one. So this is where we are now. So when you look at Jim Clyburn's district, it's the same thing. As you said earlier, what? Jim Clyburn's main goal is to stay in power. Like I said before, he's a congressman. You got 7 districts in South Carolina. 6 are Republican. 1 is a Democrat. Do you think that Jim is going to let them cut up his Democrat district? Before they made that deal, and you can look up the Wikipedia page on the 6th Congressional District, it will tell you that Jim Clyburn's district came out of this, out of that Operation Rat Blank deal that I just told you about. It says it came out of that deal, a deal made between black Democrats and white Republicans. It'll say it on the page. And Jim's had that district ever since they made it. So when Barack Obama became president, district was so jacked up and so poor that they did this documentary about it. Interstate 95 drives right through that district. And the name of the documentary was Corridor of Shame. You might find it online now. The Corridor of Shame, showing how poor and destitute and jacked up that district was and still is. It hasn't changed. Matter of fact, when Democrats look at that, they say, okay, how can we make it worse? Because the worse it is, the more power we have. What you look at is bad, they look at as good. A Democratic Party, heaven is an American hell. Why do you think they bring all those illegals up to these big cities? The worse they make them, the more power they get. It's what they want. And most people say, oh, that don't make no sense. Well, man, explain it to me then. Explain to me why Gavin Newsom knows everybody's leaving California, but the people coming there are all people he can control. He knows it. It enhances his power. Let them leave. We don't want them. They're troublemakers, these people who are leaving. They want lower taxes and they want accountability. But these people coming to California, they're the ones that are looking for free dope, free food, to be able to lay on the streets and defecate and go to a homeless shelter and just lay down and go to sleep for a couple hours and give them one in a while. Those are the ones they want in California. Then they take them and make them vote. And they vote Democrat. And that's how they do every area where you have a majority black population. And these people in those areas are voting for it, and they deserve exactly what they get.
Wow. Well, Vince, it sounds like you've done a really good job of explaining the origins and the objectives of Operation Rat Blank, how it has influenced the redistricting of strategies, or the redistricting strategy in the South. You've also broke down this bipartisan agreement to keep both of these parties happy. White, conservative Republicans are saying, we're not going to campaign in your districts. We're going to let you keep your black-owned district. Why? It's funny because blacks are always complaining about segregation, yet it sounds like they actually want more segregation. Am I making an improper inference from the logical conclusions that one would walk away with? I mean, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like segregation on purpose. And unfortunately, the people who are living in the segregated districts don't seem to have a problem with it, yet they love pointing the finger and saying it's the white races over there that are causing the problems.
You know, our Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways.
Right.
And the black community has always been schizophrenic. They want to integrate white colleges, but they want to keep HBCUs. They want if white folks leave the city, it's called white flight. But if they move into the city, it's called gentrification. You come and you're going. You come and you're going. Right? They want to keep their majority black high schools. If you try to bust in and integrate them, they get mad.
Right.
So they want their black congressman. We want a black, not a one that just fits our values. He needs to be black. We want a black mayor. We want a black city councilman. This is blatant racism and segregation. Yet they'll say on the civil rights movement, you hear all through Black History Month, we fight for integration. We fight for integration. And then they'll tell you to vote for a candidate because they're black. Vote for Kamala Harris because she's black. Vote for Barack Obama because he's black. And you look at these people and you say, you people are just as hypocritical as anybody I've ever seen in my life. We will say that in America, this is un-American to even talk about these three things. You never, ever, ever let your feelings get involved in: politics, your money, and justice.
Right.
You look at these people and you say, this is politics. Where do you stand on the issues? I don't care about your color. I don't care about your gender. I'm going to look at my values. I'm going to look at yours. And if they match, you got my vote. Oh, no, not these people. He got to be black. And they will say it. We want more. I heard Raphael Warnock with his stupid behind get up there at the rally that Kamala Harris had up in Atlanta. Said that talking about Ketanji Brown Jackson. I was happy to tell my daughter that we got a Supreme Court justice whose skin looks like hers and hair is kinky like hers. People started clapping. I said, what the hell that's got to do with anything? She don't know the difference between a man and a woman. The woman's stupid as a bag of hammers. She sat up there at the Supreme Court the other day, and they was talking about these little children, talking about giving them sex change operations and hormones. She said that, well, isn't it discriminatory to give a boy testosterone treatments, but not give it to a little girl? And the dude looked at it and said, ma'am, if you give testosterone to a boy in his teenage years, it helps him become a man quicker. You give this to a girl, it changes her bone structure. It changes her jawline. It changes her insides and her ovaries where she might not ever have children again. It changes this child forever during that time in her life. And she was going to try to make this some type of civil rights issue. And the guy said, this is a medical issue. But so he wasn't concerned that Ketanji Brown Jackson could adjudicate the Constitution. He was just concerned that she was black and she was a woman.
And had kinky hair.
And that's the reason why everywhere these idiots rule are ghettos. Because they are the stupidest people walking the face of the earth, and you can buy a whole bag of them for $10.
Listen, Vince, I think my audience is well aware of your disdain for the liberal left, how you absolutely despise progressivism. And I think we get along so well because I equally despise them. It's just the passion behind the way you communicate this. I'm laughing, but it's because there is no other way to say this. Right? If the Black community is beyond the rate of replacement because abortion has overwhelmingly captivated the minds of our young women, and we choose that as a viable family planning option, if this transgender and LGBT agenda is overwhelmingly captivating the hearts and minds of our youth to where
they're teaching it.
Right.
They're
the
teaching
statistics
it right
of
now.
Yeah, the statistics of males who are identifying, with the spectrum is alarming. It's almost like they are trying to purposely squash the population. And I think obviously there's an argument can be made that they are trying to depopulate all of humanity, but they have these covert, obvious agendas that target particularly the Black American population. And I don't understand. We embrace it. We embrace it. And I don't believe that we're somehow mentally inferior. But it does concern me that enough of us are not saying, wait a minute. We don't want this. This is not good. What type of insights or solutions? You and I both are Christian. So I don't want to speak for you. I'm assuming that you would argue that the Black community overwhelmingly needs to return back to a foundational of a Christian ethic. But what else? Not that there's anything superior to knowing Christ and having a relationship with him. What else do you believe could be done to awaken the sleeping giant within the Black community to help them realize that you are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome? The cognitive dissonance has gripped you so much that you actually are demonstrating the same type of behavior that your enslaved forefathers did, which is loving your master even when freedom is literally just a stone's throw away. What say you about what could be done or what we should be doing or what it's going to take to wake up more people?
There was a slither of hope this past election. I knew this was going to be a tipping point.
You did say that.
I knew that if we didn't turn back here, there was no turning back.
Right.
The Democratic Party had become so evil, and they were so blatantly evil. They used to be smart enough to lie about it. I mean, like most criminals, smart criminals, they know how to lie. They know how to cover up their, we're not for abortion. We just want women to have the option, or we're not for LGBTQ, we're not for taking God out of the public. We're not for da-da-da-da-da-da. But then you get the insane criminal. The insane criminal is the joker that'll kill you and then sit beside you and drink your blood and call the police and sit and wait on him. He crazy. And he said, yeah, I killed him, and if you let me go, I'm going to kill 20,000 more. That joker there's crazy. That's the Democratic Party. I'm sitting there reading the newspaper on Saturday. I thought these jokers were going to learn their lessons. In the style section, guess what they got on the front cover? They got one transgender that just won an election from Delaware named Sarah McBride, man of the dress, congressman. You got 435 members of Congress, 100 members in the Senate, a president, and 9 members of the Supreme Court.
Yes.
There's 445 people you can profile. They put that joker on the cover of Style, highlighting them, saying, yeah, this our one right here, this little punk in a dress, thinking that people gonna say, I want to be a Democrat now. No, people gonna look at that and say, what? You got to do with that dress? They are insane. The inmates have taken over the insane asylum. That Adolf Hitler walking around saying, yeah, I'm killing Jews. And what? See, he used to lie about it. He was smart enough to lie. Then he started saying, yeah, I'm killing them. And then the world came down on it. When a criminal gets so bold that he starts bragging about his crime, that's when he falls. The Democrats started bragging about their crimes after Joe Biden got elected. I said, now they're done. If the black community don't turn on these jokers now, see, Barack Obama running for president said what? He said, well, I believe that marriage between one man and one woman. Then he came in and he slid the Supreme Court justices in, and they did his dirty work. See what I mean? And then he would do executive orders the last year of his administration. Barack was slick. He never admitted to his bull crap till later on. Joe Biden came in telling everybody, yeah, I'm for abortion up to the 9th month. Yeah, I'm for LGBTQ and transitioning children. Yeah, the border's secure, and you see 4 or 5 million people a year coming over it. Yeah, I'm against school choice. You know, starting wars all over the place, and the people said these jokers finally pulled out the mask. They the Ku Klux Klan saying we hate N-words and we're gonna kill them all. No shame anymore. And there was enough black people like me and you that went out there and told people about it, showed up the evidence where it was irrefutable, and enough of us said, I'm done. I'm done.
Right.
And people, for the first time in their lives, a lot of old folks that I talked to, like my dad said, first time he didn't vote for a Democrat. Can't deal with him no more. Couldn't go no further. Done. Voted for him since his first vote. And then he says at 82, I can't do it no more. They left God. And the evidence was there to prove it. So this tipping point happened. And now we are not going to stop. We're going to put more and more pressure on them. And just like they just did with the Sarah McBride, the crazy jokers still got control of this party. And unless they turn back to God, they're done. And we're going to be the ones, like I told you before, the reason why Abraham Lincoln fired Meade at the end of Gettysburg, Meade had won this great battle. And Lincoln gave him an order, go destroy Robert E. Lee's army. And he told him 3 times. Meade didn't do it. Lincoln called him back to Washington and fired him. Meade said, why are you firing me? I just won Gettysburg, the greatest battle ever. He said, because I told you to destroy his army. Now Robert E. Lee lives, and he fought another 2 years and killed hundreds of thousands of people. We have just won a battle. It's now time for us to continue the pursuit and destroy these jokers' army and bury them 600 feet, throw quicklime on them, put a concrete slab on them, then put some dirt on it, put some grass seed, and pull up the tombstone.
On top of the concrete?
Pull up the tombstone so nobody even know where they buried.
Wow. You know, I am so enlightened by having these conversations with you because you are a master historian in terms of recalling where we have seen this before in history. And you do a really good job of helping our people to understand what the issues are, how we got here, and how to move forward. I will say in closing, this conversation has been eye-opening for sure. And I'm hoping that it has challenged my audience to think critically about what we've been told and why. But at the end of the day, our allegiance should never be to a political party. You and I are both Christians. As Christians, having this conversation, it is healthy because, for one, it exposes and explains why so many Christians have been making the political choices that don't align with their Christian values. We have to at least be honest about that. And then for me, this challenges me to examine what has been this cultural tradition to vote Democrat no matter what, vote blue no matter who, yet the implications of that decision, it's placed me in a position to where it causes my vote to, cause more harm than good because I'm trying to be loyal to a party. And then as a believer, this should lead any Christian to be like, I'm now complicit in the outcomes around me and I'm complaining about it, not realizing that this is partly my fault. So I know people believe, that politics and our Christian faith are separate and distinct from each other, but we can no longer hold such an idea to be true. We've got to be willing to confront what's uncomfortable, learn to hold our elected officials accountable, hold them to a higher standard, and then more importantly, keep our eyes fixed on Christ and the Word of God is the ultimate standard of truth. Why? Because that's how we navigate these issues objectively without being in our feelings and having a sober mind, not being blinded by ethnicity or gender. Vince, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, we have to continue to expose, as you said, the objective standard of truth is following Christ. And we got to understand how we fall away from that. And it's because these no good, sorry black preachers in an apostate church that we've started here in the United States of America, 90% of them are horrible people. Horrible people. And they on the express elevator to hell. And I just hope that Jesus Christ gives me the honor to watch their behinds burn. I hope he does. He probably won't, but it would be a pleasure for me to watch them because of the harm they've done to our people. In our Bible, in Genesis, Bible first started. God had committed and made Adam and Eve. Everything was great. They were in the garden. Everything's beautiful, just like your home with your beautiful family, right? Everything's good. Then here comes Satan. Wasn't invited. Rolls up in there and starts trouble. And after he gets them to disobey God and eat from the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve know they're naked and they hide. God doesn't know what's happened yet. He's walking through the garden, looking for Adam, looking for his son. Adam, where are you? Adam said, I'm hiding because I'm naked. And God asked that question. Who told you were naked? That's the question that we are asking in every household in America. Mama, I think I'm transgender. Who told you you were transgender? Mommy, I think I'm trapped in the wrong body. Who told you you were trapped in the wrong body? Mommy, I think I'm a racist. Who told you you were a racist? Mama, I think I'm an oppressor. Who told you you were an oppressor? These evil people have found a way to come into our garden and corrupt our children under our very noses. We eat with them, we clothe them, we feed them, we take care of them. These dirty jokers come and attack our children. The big account, what did Jesus say? Anybody harm one of these little ones is better than a millstone be tied around your neck and you be thrown into the sea. They're the worst people walking the face of this earth. Right. They use the public educational system. We trust these people. And they use it to sexualize our children. Dirty bastards. I'm sorry. They do this to children. And it stinks in my nostrils. I can't stand you attack a child. You have no right to talk to somebody that's a child about sex without their permission. Let me catch some man talking to one of my daughters about sex without my permission. See what I do to him. And they do it every single day. That's how they come. They're not after me and you. They after our children.
Right. That's
who they are. And that's what we have to know. These people are evil. On YouTube Kids, they have something like the Flintstones. Child click on the Flintstone. 5 minutes in, they're showing porn. Why would you do that? They'll put a fake like Flintstones thing up to make the child say, oh, I'm watching Flintstone. Instead, and then you click on it and the parent might watch 2 minutes, okay, and then 5 minutes in, porn. And the child is like, oh my goodness. Why would you do that to a child?
It's so wicked.
This is the Democrat Party. A party of perverts, liars, psychopaths, anti-Christian bigots. They'll do anything for power. We have to make sure that we understand that these people are evil and that our job is not to sit down with evil, not to negotiate with evil. Our job is to confront it and destroy it. Happy to have you in the army. Let's do some damage and let's beat these jokers down.
Awesome, Vince. As always, you are absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for bringing your insight and perspective to the show today.
Well, listen. You sure that it ain't you that's having that Stop the Violence rally with Gunner and Young Thug and Megan Thee Stallion? Because I was gonna come down there and I'm gonna get my bulletproof vest on and come down there and support you.
I am absolutely positively sure I have been invited to no such event. I don't even know what you're talking about. Y'all, Vince likes to joke a lot. He has an amazing sense of humor. He ain't got good sense. If you guys don't know, Vince is also my client, so I have to work very closely with him to keep him on task and to keep him straight. And it's probably one of the most difficult jobs I have ever had. But Vince, you are a joy. And my audience, I want them to go over to Vince's channel. Vince has the Vince Everett Ellison Show on YouTube. It is a widely popular YouTube podcast. He posts every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday on YouTube, X, Rumble. And we're trying to get him as well up to 100,000 subscribers. Vince, tell people how else they can learn a little bit more about you and your work before we let you sign off.
Yeah, y'all can go to VinceSpeaksTruth.com. Go to the Vince Everett Ellison Show. I'm putting stuff on about 4 times a week now. My books and everything on my documentary and everything is on VinceSpeaksTruth.com. April, thank you. Thank you so much. Your podcast is awesome. You're doing great work. The people in America are going to hear more and more about you. You're going to spread far and wide. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for access to your viewers. And we're going to keep this thing rolling. As I say again, you ready? You ready for it?
I'm ready for it.
I'm here to wake you up.
Hope I did you some good today.
Let's keep this thing rolling, baby.
You guys, until next time, grace and peace. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.